Welcome to the speaker series on A Shotglass of Recovery.
Yeah. You get a house, you get a car, then you start thinking that's all you are, but you don't know the truth. So let me spell it out for you. Now I got your attention, now there's a start. Now sit and listen to my favorite part. Life's been giving us some clues. The answer lies inside of you.
Welcome to A Shotglass of Recovery, the speaker series. I'm your host, Lisa M. This is where we share powerful, real stories from the speakers of AA Solution Seekers Toronto, my home group. People who are living the solution and walking the path of recovery one day at a time. If something you hear here resonates with you, we invite you to show your support by dropping $1 or $2 into our PayPal virtual basket. It helps us keep carrying the message and making these recordings available to others who may need them. Now let's get into today's speaker.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Hannah. I'm an alcoholic. I'm feeling pretty nervous because this is also my home group. So I've listened to so many of these lead shares and they've moved me so much. And I know that it's a massive responsibility and uh, uh, yeah, it's a great opportunity for me. And yeah, I'm pretty excited right now and feeling nervous. Okay, so I grew up in Toronto. M My childhood was really tough. My parents were very young when they had me. My parents were 2 very, very different people. I think it takes a lot of bravery and guts to get together with someone who's so different from you. And my parents chose to do that, and they had me, and then they had my brother about a year and a half later, and they were very young and maybe didn't have all of the plans in place or any family support to be having 2 small children like that. And so because of that, we got left a lot with babysitters. We were also taken to, various family members in North Bay, which is about at the time, I think it was about 6 hours because there was only one highway up there. And I know that I spent long stretches of time there away from my family, away from my parents. And my earliest memories are feeling quite terrified of being left there. So I have some, pretty strong abandonment wounds. I and some of the babysitters that we were left with here in Toronto, unfortunately, were quite abusive to both my brother and I. My father's from the Soviet Union, and my grandparents are survivors of the Holocaust. Uh, and I'm telling you this because these were all of the things that I used as reasons why I was drinking. So we'll get to that later, but it was a tough. The young part of my life was quite tough. I remembered feeling that way and thinking that way. On top of that, like when I was a kid, I was a bit overweight. I was bullied. I didn't quite fit in. I didn't understand why. I think it was likely because I was growing up in an immigrant household and I didn't know how that would make me act a little bit differently from everyone else. I remember being a kid and I was pretty in my own world, like in my own fantasy. Like I loved Star Wars and I loved like Sailor Moon and I would spend all my time like thinking about all of the, mystical stories in my mind that I was a lead character in. And I watched a lot of TV. I think I was I used to joke I was raised by a television set. And I remember one day I was watching TV and there was one of those ads for don't do drugs. I remember seeing it and I thought to myself, I think I was like 7. I thought to myself, if I ever do drugs or drink, I'm going to have a really big problem. And so I made a vow to myself then and there that I would never get drunk or do drugs. Even though I was 7, I had like this sort of awareness that that would be a really big problem for me. I felt so alone in my own world. I felt that, like, I couldn't really find love anywhere in my life, and I felt and this might not have even been true, this was just my experience in my own head as a kid. Uh, I remember at a certain point in elementary school, I was in a hallway somehow by myself. I was in a stairwell, and I had a conversation with God. I think I was 7, and I said, "God, please give me a gift that lets people see me and makes people notice me." And about a year later, a teacher came to our school who was doing a music program, and he was putting together singers to sing in this, like, group. And I went to one of these meetings, and I started singing, and people were turning around and looking at me, and I thought that they were thinking bad things about me. Sorry, I'm gonna cry a lot today. I've been really emotional. I thought they were thinking bad things about me. That's just, like, where my head was at, like, "Oh gosh, they're gonna, uh, say something mean to me after, da 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 da," and they came up to me afterwards and they said, "Wow, you have a beautiful singing voice." And that really surprised me because 'cause I'd been told before, like, "Where'd you take the money for your singing?" when I'd sung around the house and such. They said, "You had a beautiful singing voice," and so they kind of realized I was 8, I was really young, but they realized I had a really grown-up singing voice. And so he started making me the teacher, like, started having me do solos, and I was performing suddenly for really big groups of people, sometimes, like, 600 people at that age, and just getting, like, tremendous feedback. Like, people would be screaming because it's like, "Holy crap, this, like, really little kid is singing like a grown-up." And I remember just the rush, like, just an incredible rush of, like, "I'm loved, people see me, I'm special." And it was really overwhelming, and it also like, it gave me a bit of an island of, like, "Okay, I'm safe here, like, I'm important, da 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 da," and also it ended up contributing to some issues later on, of course, because it's not a reflection of reality, completely to have those kinds of, like, really, really big feelings. Like, it's like a natural high. So, at this time too, I started doing really well in school. I felt like, "Okay, I've gotta get really good grades. I wanna do well in life." I was very, very young. I put a lot of pressure on myself to get good grades, but this also started getting me positive attention from people. And so I put a lot of effort in that and kind of kept my nose down, got through elementary school. Even though I was getting bullied and all of that, I had my things that I was good at that I could hold on to. And then I graduated and I went to art school, and all of the things that made me weird and unloved and, like, strange at the school I'd been before, suddenly I was being loved for those things and accepted for those things. Like, that I was quirky and that I wanted to wear vintage clothes and that I was interested in music that was old and, like, that I like jazz music and all of the people at the school, the art school. So in Canada, you can do performing arts school. This one had visual arts as well. I was suddenly like, the older kids in school were really interested in me, and inviting me to do things with them on the weekends. And I think around this time, so I'd grown up, I'd seen people drinking, I'd had sips, like, I'm Russian, so, like, they would give us drinks all the time as kids, and I was like, "This is disgusting, like, how could anyone ever drink this?" And I would see family members getting quite drunk. My mom, who's not Russian, she used to brag that she could drink my grandfather under the table, like, they'd done competitions, and she'd won, and it was, like, a point of pride. I'd seen my grandfather, like, drink so much that he'd be, on the floor crying for his mother. Like, it was very dramatic. There was a lot of drama in my family. And so at this art school, it's this particular one in Toronto is also very famous for being a school where the kids do a lot of drugs and drink quite a lot. And the people I was hanging out with were definitely doing those things, but I was always like the good, innocent one. And around this time, I started dancing a lot at art school. And it was the first time in my life I was physical and, like, I was moving around. I was so uncoordinated as a kid, and suddenly it all kinda clicked in because there was music. So I learned how to dance, and I was dancing, like, 8 hours a day. And I had these really cool friends, but I never really did, like, the things that they were doing because I was getting up in the morning going to dance class. And that was like my drug. It was giving me so much like regulation and giving me a place to put my feelings. Sadly, because I was hanging out all with older kids, they graduated and then suddenly I was alone. And at this time, I developed a really terrible mental illness that outside issue, and it really impacted my life for a very, very long time. And, I think there's so much overlap with this and drinking because it's just the thoughts that I needed relief from. Like I could not stop certain thoughts. They were completely out of my control. And so I got through high school, started getting a little bit of help with through a hospital here in Toronto, but I still was, like, quite unwell, and I graduated high school, and I still wasn't drinking. So many of my friends, started drinking 14, 15. I didn't really start drinking. I think I took my first drink at, like, 17, and I didn't really start until about 19. And I remember at those parties when I started drinking a bit more, I had wanted to be like my mom and like my family and be prideful that I could drink quite a lot, but I would like black out and sit. I remember once I sat on a pie, which was like all funny, like, oh, I sat on a pie. That friend group I was in, I had a really bad breakup with somebody who was in that friend group, and I ended up turning to a whole other friend group from my high school that I felt accepted me and didn't shame me for some of the ways that I was a bit weird. And I began spending more time with them, and my drinking at this point fell off a cliff. I was around 19, and I was drunk for about 3 years straight. There might have been 1 or 2 days a month in there that I wasn't, but it was terrifying. Like, I remembered feeling quite scared, and I couldn't stop. And the thing about it was that it gave me a relief from my thoughts, which were unmanageable to me, and I got a break. So in a way, it felt like drinking was the solution, but it was terrifying, and it was landing me in very scary places. I'm somebody no I learned this a little bit later about myself when I tried to drink again when I was older, because I took a long break, but I learned that I'm somebody who I don't go home. I stay out. Even after everybody else goes home, I'll pretend I'm going home and then say, like, and then go find somewhere else to go, or I'll just run off, which was, really scary for friends of mine. Anyways, so the people I was spending time with, they weren't even drinking every night, but I found different groups of people to hang out with different nights. I'm very social. So I think there's a way that maybe people were definitely noticing that I was struggling, but, I could kind of keep it a bit hidden from everyone by spreading it out between different friend groups. Around this time, I started to obviously wanna slow down. There's no way I could have stopped. There was no, like, rock bottom. However, I met someone who managed to have really they were moving their life forward as a grown up while still drinking, and this person we ended up getting together, and suddenly I had someone who was kind of looking after me, like, making sure I got home by 4:30, Like, I was only drinking on the weekends at this point, and we were in love, and I didn't know this at the time, but we can't use other people to control our drinking. That's not a healthy relationship. And the relationship, I think I don't wanna say doomed, but, like, I mean, I was starting it from a place where I was really emotionally unwell, and it was probably the healthiest thing that I could have done at the time, given what I knew at the time, and it involved a lot of enabling between both of us. And it's taken me a really long time to understand, like, what was going on in that relationship because it was so important to me, and, we were together for 13 years, and I think ultimately it's like I'm learning right now in my sobriety that if I'm in a relationship where we're both ignoring things that are going on, then we're both enabling one another, and that's actually very selfish. I didn't know that. if I'm going to another person and just getting what I want from them while ignoring XYZ, that's very selfish of me because it's allowing, like, distorted thinking to continue. And so, okay, drunk for 3 years straight, found someone, which was really exciting, thought it could work because we were both drinking a similar amount. I organized my whole life around drinking. Like, I was picking the person, my friends, like, so nobody would be questioning me or there wouldn't be any consequences. Just kinda trying to set up, like, risk reduction. Around this time, I was like, "Well, I don't know how to move my life forward. I don't know how to be happy. The person I'm with is older, they're successful, they wanna have kids. Okay, let's go. I'll be a mom." And so I had my daughter, and it was nice. For the first time in my life, I felt like I got a break. I didn't have to do any singing or any performing. I got to just stay home, and I was important to somebody just, like, in a room alone. Like, I didn't have to impress everyone, and it was a really special time. Obviously, I didn't drink when I was pregnant. I later found out I've talked to other moms, and it's probably the people that I know as well. It's like, "Oh, yeah, I also wanted 9 months off of drinking. That's one of the reasons why I got pregnant." And that's how much it would have taken for me to stop drinking is to, like, actually have to, like, to be pregnant. So, had my daughter, she got a bit older. I was still, like, drinking on weekends, still sometimes having, like, blackouts, but it was all kind of contained. And then some things were happening in my relationship, things weren't going as well, but my partner really wanted to have another kid, and I thought, I don't have anything better to do. I don't know how to be happy. I want my daughter to have a sibling, and this is what I'm good at. I'm good at being a mom, so I'm gonna have another kid. And we had another kid, and then my partner broke both his arms shortly after this, and then right after that, COVID hit. So I had 2 small kids, my partner had, 2 broken arms, we were now stuck inside, and I went into, like, a whole other gear of, like, "We're gonna get through this. I'm gonna get us through this." And I really shock absorbed a lot of what was going on in COVID. We ended up having to move, due to things that were going on in our life, so we moved to a small town, and I was good. I was doing everything right. I was being responsible. I was staying cheerful for everyone. I was trying to protect my kids from what was going on. I know that, COVID regulations were different all over the world. For us here in Toronto, we had the longest lockdowns in the world, and so I was stuck inside with 2 small children under the ages of 4, it for 3 years. We didn't bubble. Nobody wanted to bubble with us. It was long, and I really kept my head up. I tried to keep my chin up the whole time, and during this time, I felt extremely lonely. And I did all of the nights, so I was, like, psychologically, like, a little mixed up because I wasn't sleeping, and it was a lot. I had them during the day because my partner was working, and when the regulations all lifted, I'd also been going to school this entire time because I didn't finish my school. I didn't finish my university because I was a drunk. And I dropped out several times, and, I would drop out and not even, like, click the button, like, to drop the course. I would just let it run out until till I had 0% in the course. So I wouldn't get any money back, and I wouldn't it would affect my grades, which had been very good before that. So my schooling really, fell apart because of my drinking, and I had to go back to school when I had kids because I was home. I was like, "Okay, let's do something." So I went back to school to become a mental health care provider. And so the entire time during COVID, I was also studying. So anytime I did have a break, I was in a room, like, hunched over, studying, trying to, get my degree. COVID lifted, and everyone in my life agreed I deserved a drink, or at least that was my perception of it, you know? Everyone agreed that I deserved some time out, and I went back outside for the first time, and I'd been pregnant or nursing for 7 years, and I'm very short-waisted. When I was pregnant, I would gain, like, over 100 pounds. I'm not even joking you. And so I was like, at this point, I'm 33, 6, I, for the first time, like, look pretty again. I'm out, for the first time without my kids, which was terrifying. I had nobody around to take care of, which had been, like, my headset, and I was out drinking, and that is when I learned that this is a progressive disease. So even though I hadn't been out and I'd been so responsible for so long, I was going out and behaving the exact same way as I did in my early 20s. It happened right away. Staying out all night, one day turning into 2. Like, I could not control it even though I had children at home, I had so much responsibility, and I still didn't think that drinking was the problem. I thought, like, that it was the way my life was set up, that it was the way my relationship was set up, that that's why I needed to go out and take up this space. And there might have been some truth in that, but I was not dealing with it maturely because I had the maturity of a 19-year-old because that's when I started drinking, and that's when my, like, emotional growth was paused. So, like many relationships, I think COVID was the final nail in mine, and we started the process of breaking up because I was so completely dependent on him financially, mentally, like, emotionally. Uh, this was extremely difficult for me, and around the same time, I had estrangement from my certain family members in my life. Sadly, like, I had to. Again, I'm thinking about the enabling. I had to come to reality that I was going to people for help and love, and I was doing that, but ignoring things that ways that they were being in the relationship that were extremely toxic to both of us. And if I'm going to someone and using them and not being honest with them, eventually that's gonna impact me. And, I'm sure there's ways I had those conversations that, like, were not necessarily helpful, but I lost some people in my family that were really important to me at the same time as my partner, and this really threw a match on my life. I was now completely off the rails, and it's one thing to be having these benders in my early 20s. It was really quite scary as an adult with so much responsibility. I managed to kind of keep a lot of things together. I managed to keep my job together. I was functioning, but I was hitting rock bottoms. And I remember during one of the rock bottoms, I wanted to die. I wished to die. And that's where my thinking was. Like, that's the consequence of this disease, that my thinking was there. That's what I thought was the truth and the truth about life. And I kept trying to go out, kept trying to figure out ways, maybe if I hang out with these people, I'll be able to have fun. Maybe if I hang out with this person and go to this party, it'll still work. Finally, I went out with a girlfriend of mine. I don't know what happened that night. I don't know what clicked in. I went home that next morning and I called a really good friend of mine at the time and I opened up about a secret I'd been keeping in the hopes that that would be what kept me sober, that I'd maybe been holding on to this secret and telling a lie, and maybe if I told this secret, I would suddenly be able to be sober because I really wanted to stop. And I got a bunch of books on drinking, like Quit Like a Girl, and I don't remember what the other one was. And I decided, like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna quit drinking. And I think a week went by, 2 weeks went by, that's the longest I'd ever gone, and I talked to the girlfriend I went out with that night, and I asked her, I was like, or no, I didn't ask her, I told her, I was like, "I'm not drinking anymore," and she said, "Me neither." And somehow simultaneously, we'd both gone out that night and both stopped drinking the same night. And I have to tell you, like, I drank a lot. Like, I really thought I was a 6 foot tall man. Like, I had to drink the most. Like, that's what I was competitive. I had to do the most. And so it was very bizarre that, like, her and I had both stopped on the same night. We were both kind of similar in that way. We were I was like a flag carrying party girl, and so was she, and we both decided to put it down the same night, and She told me she was going to Alcoholics Anonymous. I never, ever would go to Alcoholics Anonymous. Never. No way. And she was really cool. So I was like, "You know what? I would have probably gone anywhere with her." She'd said she was going to, like, I don't know, somewhere weird. I would have gone there with her because I thought she was really cool. So I went with her to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I sat down and in the back, and I heard for the first time what felt in my body like the truth. I was like, "Why do I feel so calm and peaceful?" It's like, "Oh, people are telling the truth." And I realized, I'm like, it is not just me who's having a terrible time drinking. I honestly my thinking, my wild and wacky thinking, it was distorted. I thought I was the only one that was suffering and that I had to figure out, like, how to drink differently to feel okay about it. I didn't understand that other people were suffering too, and I guess that's a form of narcissism, like, "I'm the only one." No, it's like, it's I'm not the only one, and I was hearing the truth for the first time, and I loved it, and I told my friend, I'm like, "Okay, well, I really like it. I think it's very cool here. I'll never say I'm an alcoholic, though. No way." And then she told me, "Oh, Hannah, it's such a relief when you say it." And I was like, "Okay, well, like, I think you're really cool." This is like good peer pressure. Anyways, I think you're really cool. You know what? I'll give it a try. It's just some words. Like, what's the big deal? So I tried it out and I was like, I didn't get a huge relief, but like I enjoyed it. And I was putting time together, like the longest time I'd ever been sober. And I was like, I've never been sober for this long before. So I kept going. I chose a sponsor. I was doing because she was doing it though, and I thought I wanted to be like her. Kept going, really liked it, liked the people there. It felt good. My friend did her step 4, and I was like, yeah, no way. This is the thing I struggled with. It's like I have been abused. I've been hurt. All these things have happened to me. Why would I take responsibility for them? That didn't make sense to me. And I told her that. And she's like, Hannah, respectfully, you're wrong. It is very empowering to sit down and go through this process and take your power back. And I was like, "Okay." And she's, a lot of people drop out of the program at step 4. They do the first 3 steps and then they drop out, and this is the one where you really get the benefits." So I was like, "Okay." So I did it. I did it all. I sat down with my sponsor in this room. We sat here for 6 hours. We didn't leave. We didn't stop to eat or anything. There's snacks on the table. We stopped to go to the washroom. I had a spiritual experience, absolutely. Like, I really could see how creative my defects are. I'm a creative person, I'm an artist. Mine were funny. I pick out situations to put myself in harm's way so that I'd have a reason to drink. Like, this is what I would do, and I really learned this. It's like, if I am hurting myself, I'm not a good person because I'm hurting somebody. Maybe it's more contained, and maybe I'm fooling myself that I think it's not hurting other people. It's not true. That's not the way the world works. I'm a person too. No matter what I've learned or thought or think, that's not the truth. It's delusional. I'm a person too. So I learned that about myself, spiritual experience. And then I think it was 2 or 3 days later, my grandmother caught on fire and died. And this grandmother was a really important person to me. And I felt that the way that she died, like her story was like she was a survivor from the Holocaust. She came from the Soviet Union. She fought her way like from nothing. I think my grandparents, they grew up with dirt floors and they ended up with a beautiful home here. And she was so hardworking, and she died doing something she loves, which was burning stuff. She was hardworking till the end. Um, but I thought at this point that, like, God had forgotten me, that, like, all the spiritual things that had happened to me in my step 4 were, like, suddenly erased. That's how it felt. And I still didn't drink, which was amazing. However, I stopped doing my step work, and I kinda began this sort of, like, dry bender where I was doing some of the same behaviors as I would when I'd been drinking, but now I was sober. And that is really scary, like, to be awake for it all and to be like, I am this out of control of these thought patterns that, like, I end up here again. And so at this point, my sponsor at the time was like, he's like, "We're not doing step work. Like, I don't think this is working. My cat died." And I thought, okay, I think I'm going to leave the program. I don't think it's for me. This isn't the place for me, obviously, if this is what's happening. And then I had this sort of like weird inkling. I'm like, I think there's someone else I can call. And I wasn't sure who it was yet. Like, I couldn't figure it out, but I'm like, I know that feeling when I have it. I'm like, there's somebody else I can call. And when I remembered them, I called them and they were a single mom too. So, like, I knew that anything they'd said to me, I wouldn't be able to bat away and say, you don't understand. You don't understand how busy I am, da 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 da. Da." So I called them and we talked, and I told them I'd been starting to check out this meeting in the morning, this one here, Solution Seekers. And my sponsor told me, this is an amazing meeting. The people there know their program. And even if you can only go for 20 minutes, a half an hour, go. That is something you've done for your recovery today. And so I started coming here to this meeting. I started coming, I'd come for 20 minutes. I'd come for 30 minutes. Always my camera off. I started turning my camera on. I started coming a little bit earlier. I shared. Then I started coming even earlier. So I started coming like before the meeting. And then I started doing service. And this is the thing for me. Okay. Like, this is when everybody's different. Everyone has to work a different program. Personally, I don't get that, like, conscious contact with my higher power when I'm meditating. I mean, maybe it happens, like, I'll get it later because I meditated earlier. I'm sure that's something that happens, and I don't understand the relationship, but the relationship for me is super clear when I'm being of service. I can feel it. I get the messages I need to get. I see what I need to see. For me, that was so important, was when I started to add in service. And, I think it was really tough for me. I had to, like, kind of let go of certain relationships. I was really holding on to them and thinking, if I can just figure out how to be a little bit different here and put that work in, I can make this work. And the thing is that what I've learned here too is that a part of reality is accepting, like, I'm putting effort in, is the other person putting effort in too? Like, it has to be mutual because we're both adults, and, like, it's not healthy if it's just me, and I also have to put my recovery first because there's certain kinds of thinking that if I engage in that type of thinking, it becomes very dangerous for me. I am not in control. I have, like, a blind spot. So there's things I have to do in my routine every day and things I have to stay away from because I will use that in the service of, like, getting a rush of stress chemicals, getting a rush of negative feelings because I'll try to get high off that too. And I can see the consequences in my life when I do that. Okay, so I say that, like, love and tolerance, my home group is where I got physically sober, and, like, solution seekers is where I got emotionally sober. And I don't, it's not every day, it's not perfect. And if I do the right things, I kind of keep coming back and keep learning and going in the direction I need to. I have to understand that, like, how bad it was where I was. I want to pretend that I was in a certain place in life, but it wasn't actually the full picture. So there's a lot of things I've got to go back and learn. And I am like a baby in some of these ways, but I'm learning in the program. Oh, I heard someone say that we have to spend as much time in meetings as we did drinking. So that means I've got to, like, I have to do a lot of meetings. I'm just one of those people. And I think what this has given me the opportunity to do is that I'm learning how to become a grown up. And I need to because I chose to have kids. And it's not just that I chose to have kids, it's because it's the reality. I'm getting older. And anytime I do something that's not responsible, my higher power has, like, an eye on me. Like, I always feel it or something happens. There's always, I can see, I'm like, "Oh, that's the consequence right there." And when I'm drinking, I can't make those connections or learn that. My brain's not able to do that. So I'm learning very slowly, but I think it's happening, that my feelings, although they're messengers about things, I'm learning how not to be so scared of them. Like, when they happen, I'm like, "What is this? What's happening? Oh my God." Like, I can't handle it. And that's why the drinking was happening. And sometimes it feels like too much because how am I gonna deal with all of this? Like, one of the things about recovery is that, like, okay, I hear people say you put the plug in the jug, and then it's like, okay, what about the rest of your life? Like, there was a reason why I was drinking. And, maybe I did have all of these things that happened when I was younger and like my life was constellated in a certain way. If I continue to make bad decisions, I'm continuing to add on to the problem. And because of my drinking, I made a lot of bad decisions. And now I'm sober and I have to look back and kind of go through the pile of them. And it's really overwhelming. And I think one of the things I've had to learn in sobriety is pacing. Like they say, one day at a time, easy does it. That's really important. There's no way I'm gonna get through, like, all of the things I need to get through to fix my life in one day. I've been sober for 2 years. It was 2 years last Monday, and I think I'm moving in the right direction. Sometimes I'm scared that I'm not, uh, but I think what I'm learning is that the relationships I build in recovery are blessed. Like, they're blessed by my higher power. Like, even the ones that aren't, like, have just some dysfunction, there's learning and there's messages, and it's not just stuff that's happening to me and adding to the pile. Like, I'm able to grow and learn what I need to learn. Last night, I did there's like a sauna here in Toronto called Othership, and they say all these, like motivating things while you're in the sauna. They're like, "You are powerful, like you are strong." And we were all yelling that and stuff. And at the end, they had us sitting down and they said, "Think about your 10-year-old." And I could really see her. And I think that there were times when like I was hurting her and I didn't know what to do. And it was so scary because I felt so out of control. And I didn't know if I was gonna, like, live or die, and yesterday I saw her and I told her all the things we're doing. I told her about, like, our kids, and I'm not perfect. Like, my life hasn't been perfect. I've made really bad decisions. But I can talk to her, and I told her we're helping people, and that's what I get to do in my life now, and I'm not different from anyone here. We're all helping people, and that's a spiritual calling, and, it's, I don't know if there's, like, good and evil. I'm not really sure, but we're part of the solution, all of us, just by being here, by sharing any service we do, we're part of a solution, and we're all bootstrapping each other from a program that was invented, like, 100 years ago. We're giving children we don't know a better future. We're looking back at the past and we're fixing it. Sorry, I'm really emotional today. I've been given a gift of life by the people who came before me, and I'm using it well, and I also don't wanna put too much pressure on myself. Like, I'm not perfect. I can't like, I'm not a magician. Nobody is. Like, I'm just a drunk. I've been smacked down so many different times. Like, I'm not special. I am not unique. I am one of many, and that is so reassuring to me because that's how I know I'm not alone, and I thought I was alone for, like, my whole life, and, there's still, like, so much I have to learn, and I'm sometimes really scared about that. I'm still making so many mistakes, but I feel like I don't know, when I'm here, I feel good. Gosh, I feel like I'm probably winded down now. There's different phases in recovery I've noticed, and I think I'm trying to understand which one I'm in now, and I'm just really glad to be here, and I hope that, you know, this resonated with people, parts of it. Yeah, I think I got extra time. I think I'm done, honestly. I think I'm done. Thank you guys so much. This is wild and really special to be a part of this group. I'm so grateful for this group, this meeting.
Just a quick reminder to subscribe, like, or follow if you like the show on any of your favorite listening platforms. If you like the speakers and other content on the podcast, please show us some love by leaving a review and consider making a PayPal contribution to help keep the show going at paypal.me/A Shotglass of Recovery. Every dollar makes a difference, and we thank you. Our speakers come from my AA home group, AA Solution Seekers. We meet every day at 7 a.m., so pop in sometime and say hello. Until next time, thanks for joining me on A Shot Glass of Recovery.
Everything you do, the answer lies inside you.